An unexplained disappearance. Two desperate sisters. A husband with secrets. Where is Nikki? Evidence emerging from the shadows. Hidden violence. Authorities on the case. Too many coincidences, or a meticulously crafted plan. When the smoke clears, the truth will come to light. A case you won't be able to forget. The mystery surrounding Nikki Cheng McCain, a 39-year-old woman who vanished in May 2024, took a dark turn when investigators began treating the case as a homicide. Detective teams have been working tirelessly to search for clues, executing numerous warrants, including searches at the missing woman's home. On the front lines of this heartbreaking search are the victims' sisters, Chloe, Kay, and Ford, who haven't given up since Nikki disappeared on May 18th. While authorities have already identified several suspects, their identities remain under wraps to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigation. The case gained public attention about 8 months ago when the first troubling signs and suspicious circumstances surfaced. Recently, Tyler McCain, Nikki's husband, and previously accused of domestic violence, gave his first public statement since his wife's disappearance. Many observers were disturbed to notice unsettling behavioral similarities to the infamous Chris Watts, convicted for the murder of his pregnant wife and daughters. The last time Nikki was seen was on May 17, 2024. Initially, the Reading Police Department led the investigation, but later, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office took over the case. Curiously, the same jurisdiction where Sherry Papini resided when she faked her own kidnapping, although comparisons between the cases end at that detail. Just a week and a day after her disappearance, Nikki's truck was found in Tehama County, but authorities remained tight-lipped about the exact location of the discovery. The timing of Nikki's disappearance fueled deep suspicions, as it coincided precisely with the approach of Tyler's trial, scheduled for July, regarding serious charges of domestic violence that led to injuries, false imprisonment, and terrorist threats. These charges stemmed from an incident that occurred in December of the previous year. According to court documents, on December 1, 2023, a Shasta County Sheriff's deputy responded to a call at Mercy Hospital to interview a woman being treated as a confidential victim. The officer immediately noticed visible facial injuries on both of the woman's eyes, as well as bruising on her forehead and other parts of her face. As described in the official report, both eyes were severely bruised and swollen, clearly indicating physical assault. When asked about the attacker, the woman pointed to her 13-year-old husband, Tyler McCain. Her account detailed how Tyler slapped her between 10 and 15 times across the face during a single incident that took place at their home. She described being in her bedroom doing her hair when Tyler came home acting strange and locked the back door. He then became extremely hostile, muttering incoherently, before attacking her in the bedroom. For 3 hours, he pinned her to the ground, hitting her face violently and deliberately, pulling her hair, and even pouring water on her. The victim confessed that she feared she wouldn't survive the attack, especially when Tyler bound her ankles and wrists and taped her mouth shut. At one point, he flipped her over, positioned himself on top of her, yanked her head back, and threatened to kill her. The beating continued, while Tyler also tried, unsuccessfully, to wrap an object around her neck. When she finally found an opportunity to escape, Tyler intercepted her by jumping in front of the vehicle and ordering her to stay. In a later statement to authorities, Tyler acknowledged the victim was his wife, Nikki McCain, and admitted to being aware of the injuries, although he claimed not to have directly observed them. His version of events suggested that the injuries were the result of a conflict between his wife and a third party, a narrative inconsistent with the physical evidence documented on the victim. The case took a more controversial turn when the district attorney's office filed a motion to dismiss the charges against Tyler McCain. In an official statement, They justified the decision by citing insufficient evidence since Nikki McCain, the primary victim, was missing during the ongoing investigation. This decision sparked widespread outrage, especially on social media, where users expressed frustration over what many considered a systemic failure. On May 25th, about a week after her disappearance, Nikki's 2002 Chevrolet Avalanche truck was found in Tehama County, roughly an hour and a half south of Shasta County. Some unconfirmed reports suggested that the vehicle was found under a bridge in a mountainous area, but authorities remained discreet about the exact location and any potential evidence found inside the vehicle. On July 5, 2024, the Shasta County Superior Court formally rejected the charges against Tyler, allowing him to leave court seemingly relieved and unconcerned about his wife's whereabouts. For many observers, the timing of Nikki's disappearance and the approaching trial of Tyler couldn't be ignored. The prevailing theory in public discussions suggested a disturbing scenario. Tyler may have orchestrated Nikki's disappearance to avoid her testimony, knowing that the absence of the key witness would fatally compromise the case against him. This perception was reinforced when the public prosecutor didn't hold an immediate press conference to explain the reasons behind the dismissal, which only fueled further public dissatisfaction. The community's response was swift. Protesters gathered in organized demonstrations against the judicial decision, flooding both the physical courthouse and digital platforms with harsh criticisms, accusing the judicial system of neglecting domestic violence cases and comparing the authorities to the accused in terms of moral responsibility. The geographical context amplified the criticism, as Shasta County was the same place where Sherry Papini had staged her false kidnapping years earlier. Commentators couldn't help but point out the contrast in how the two cases were handled. While Papini's situation mobilized significant resources, about $150,000 in local operations, later revealed as a waste. The first official search for Nikki didn't occur until 2 weeks after her disappearance, organized by family and friends, not official authorities. Public pressure eventually forced a response from District Attorney Stephanie Bridget, who issued an extensive statement. "I hear the community's calls for answers and justice for Nikki McCain. I share these feelings and frustrations. It's incredible how our community has come together, and we fully support their efforts. Unfortunately, some people have commented, posted, and shared information online and with news outlets that is inaccurate. Misinformation feeds distrust and disappointment." Bridget went on to explain the legal reasoning behind the decision. "I assure you that dismissing the domestic case is the best course of action at this time, as it preserves our ability to refile charges once Nikki is found or sufficient evidence is obtained to use her statements in her absence." See, the prosecutor also emphasized the institutional commitment to the case. Both the domestic violence case and the missing persons investigation are being actively worked by my office and the Shasta County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office's Major Crimes Unit is the leading agency on the investigation, with significant resources dedicated to both fronts. My office has assigned an assistant district attorney to the domestic case, a senior assistant district attorney to the missing person case, and a chief assistant district attorney overseeing all the work. Despite the official explanations, many remained dissatisfied, as the statement didn't fully clarify the reasons for the dismissal. Legal experts pointed out the constitutional issue involved. The Sixth Amendment guarantees citizens' fundamental rights in criminal proceedings, including the right to confront witnesses during trials. Since Nikki was missing and unable to appear in court, Tyler would be deprived of that constitutional right. District Attorney Bridget also mentioned concerns about potential double jeopardy. If they proceeded with the case without Nikki's crucial testimony and Tyler was acquitted, he couldn't be tried again for the same crime, even if Nikki later reappeared or new incriminating evidence emerged. a situation that could permanently compromise the search for justice. This technical justification, while legally sound, did little to ease the sense of injustice felt by Nikki's family and the community, who continued to question whether the judicial system was genuinely committed to holding potential abusers accountable, or if there were deeper structural flaws that needed to be addressed. As the community's frustration grew over the dismissal of the case, a peculiar event added a new layer of suspicion to the already controversial circumstances. On July 3, 2024, just 2 days before the official rejection of charges against Tyler, a fire broke out in the 1700 block of Olinda Road in Anderson, California. Although no one was formally arrested, one person was cited for the incident. Initially, CAL FIRE, California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, kept the identity of the person responsible under wraps, stating they might release information about arrests, but not citations. The mystery was quickly solved when reporters, apparently armed with insider information, confronted Tyler directly, asking if he had been the one cited. To everyone's surprise, Tyler admitted to starting the fire. For many observers of the case, the timing of the fire and the dismissal of the criminal case against Tyler immediately raised suspicions that it might have been a deliberate attempt to destroy evidence. Tyler, however, offered a mundane explanation. He had parked his car over dry vegetation, causing the fire to start accidentally. CAL FIRE later partially corroborated this version, officially stating that the fire was caused by a faulty catalytic converter that expelled incandescent fragments onto dried vegetation. A local reporter covering the fire damage reported, "We now know the fire was started by a car left running at the Olinda Road property, and we've confirmed that both the vehicle responsible for the fire and this property belong to Tyler McCain, husband of the missing Nikki McCain." McCain approached me today while I was filming the fire damage, sharing that he had been cited for the incident. He told me he had just bought a car to repair and left it running for a few minutes while he went inside to get something. When he came back, he said the fire had already started. This explanation, while plausible, sparked intense public debate. Was it just a coincidence or a calculated move? For some, the pattern of coincidences in Nikki's case was becoming too frequent to ignore. First, her disappearance conveniently before Tyler's trial, now a fire on his property just before the final court decision. As one commentator noted, "You can call it a conspiracy, or you can call it strategy. My personal opinion is that it's strategic, especially since Nikki disappeared before the trial even started. Conveniently, coincidentally. And now, when his trial was about to begin, and there might or might not have been potential evidence, his car conveniently starts a fire." Beyond the fire incident, Tyler's behavior continued to attract critical scrutiny. In the fall of that year, Nikki's family held a celebration for what would have been her 40th birthday, a highly emotional occasion, drastically different from past celebrations. If she were here, we'd probably be celebrating with lots of food and all the things she loves to eat. But she's not here. We can't find her, lamented one of her sisters during the event. Despite less media coverage than other similar cases, the community, friends, family, and even strangers moved by the story continued to hold protests and demonstrations to keep awareness about Nikki's disappearance alive. During these events, they frequently chanted in unison, "What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? Now!" In a particularly revealing incident in June, Tyler was caught making obscene gestures toward protesters as he entered the Shasta County Courthouse to answer traffic violations unrelated to the main case. Among those receiving his offensive gesture were not only the protesters questioning, "Where is Nikki?" but also Nikki's own sisters, the behavior of someone who many felt was not genuinely concerned about the whereabouts of his missing wife. Nikki's sisters, in turn, have been transparent about the allegedly abusive relationship Nikki and Tyler maintained for years. However, in a surprising twist, Tyler appeared at a press conference on March 10, 2025, almost a year after her disappearance, standing side by side with Nikki's sisters, marking his first public statement since she vanished. During this appearance, Tyler exhibited a demeanor that many observers considered artificial and devoid of genuine emotion. "Hello, I'm TM, Nikki McCain's husband. First, I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Office, the FBI, for being involved, for any efforts that might help bring my wife home safely. We miss her. I don't really know what to say. I haven't been under the public's eye, and I haven't been handling this very well. I apologize to everyone, especially my children, my wife's family, mine too. I'm just seeking support, so whatever I can do, I want to do." See to this brief and seemingly rehearsed statement was met with skepticism by many viewers, who pointed out what they perceived as a coldness in his eyes and lack of authentic emotion, reminiscent of other notorious cases like Chris Watts. The prevailing perception was that his apology was insufficient and potentially calculated, raising more doubts than providing answers or comfort. Nikki's sisters, Chloe and Kay, also spoke at the same conference, demonstrating a markedly different posture, one full of genuine emotion and relentless determination to find their sister, visibly contrasting with Tyler's brief and seemingly detached presentation, a contrast that did not go unnoticed by the public closely following the increasingly intriguing case. The case took a dramatic turn when Nikki's sisters were informed, about 2 weeks before the March press conference, that the FBI had officially taken an active role in the investigation. While this news represented a potentially positive development, Chloe and Kay were initially given very little information about the specific reasons for the federal involvement or any new developments that had prompted this intervention. However, the true twist in the case came just 4 days after the press conference when, on March 14, 2025, the Shasta County Sheriff's Office issued a surprising update that fundamentally shifted the nature of the investigation. The official statement described a significant operation. On Friday, March 14, 2025, detectives from the Shasta County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit, along with agents from the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, executed a search warrant at 17277 Olinda Road, Anderson. This is the address where Nikki was residing when she was initially reported missing by family members on May 22, 2024. Wow, the statement went on to detail the extensive investigative efforts. Since the beginning of the investigation, detectives have worked tirelessly to locate Nikki and determine the events that led to her disappearance. Detectives have executed numerous search warrants, including a previous search at Nikki's residence. Additionally, they have interviewed family members, friends, acquaintances, and even citizens who reported information about her disappearance. The authorities' conclusion, based on all the collected evidence and interviews, marked an official and grim shift in the case status. Based on the evidence gathered, information obtained from these interviews, and considering that no family members have had contact with Nikki since May 18, 2024, detectives have determined that Nikki is a victim of homicide. This formal statement confirmed what many had feared from the outset. The investigation was no longer a simple missing persons case, but a criminal homicide investigation. The statement also revealed that detectives have identified persons of interest in her homicide. However, their identities are being withheld due to the ongoing nature of this investigation. What was particularly intriguing was the public request for assistance included in the statement. Authorities were asking for help in identifying the driver of a reddish truck who may have picked up an adult male in the area of Highway 36 in the western part of the county, near Wild Horse Ranch or the Gorge Bridge. The period of interest was between May 18th and May 25th, precisely the week following Nikki's disappearance. This request evoked parallels with other notorious cases, such as Brian Laundrie, who, after the homicide of Gabby Petito, sought rides in his attempt to evade detection. The specificity of the request suggested that authorities had concrete information regarding suspicious movements potentially linked to Nikki's disappearance and possible homicide. According to eyewitnesses who witnessed the search operation at the residence, Tyler reportedly arrived during the execution of the warrant as a passenger in a vehicle, although it is unclear whether it was his own car or an official vehicle. These same sources claimed that he was not allowed entry into the property during the search, was not questioned by authorities, nor was he taken into custody. Information, however, that was neither officially confirmed nor denied by the authorities. A particularly curious development involved the arrest of a woman identified as Christina Adams, 32, who was allegedly detained following the search operation. Her charges were recorded as violations of codes 1203.2a and 50126 PC, related to probation violation or involvement in new crimes. Christina's connection to the case sparked intense speculation, as she appeared to have moved into Tyler and Nikki's residence at some point after Nikki's disappearance. Although there were no official reports establishing a romantic relationship between Christina and Tyler, many observers considered this the most likely explanation for her presence in the residence. Records indicated that Christina had an extensive criminal history, including charges for serious crimes, periods of probation, and prior detentions. The possibility of a relationship starting so soon after Nikki's disappearance added another layer of complexity to the case, raising questions about potential complicity or prior knowledge of the events. In an interview after these developments, Nikki's sisters, Chloe and Kay, revealed additional details about recent interactions with Tyler. According to them, the night before the execution of the search warrant, Tyler had contacted Nikki's family, an unprecedented occurrence, as, up until that point, Chloe reported that he hadn't had any contact with her family. This behavior was interpreted as yet another red flag. During the conversation, Tyler maintained his version of events, categorically denying any involvement in Nikki's disappearance and claiming to have no knowledge of what had happened. Chloe described that at times he seemed emotional, but at others he displayed notable coldness. Particularly revealing was an incident when Kay, Nikki's other sister, took a more direct and confrontational approach during the conversation. Instead of showing understanding for a concerned family member's distress, Tyler allegedly responded with a sarcastic smile, behavior Chloe described as completely inappropriate for the gravity of the situation. Kay later clarified that her approach had not been abusive or unreasonable. She simply asked direct, specific questions that deserved clear answers. A perfectly justifiable approach, considering the extreme circumstances and the long period without contact. Tyler's dismissive reaction toward the genuine suffering of the family was interpreted by many as indicative of a cold and possibly calculating personality, inconsistent with the behavior expected from someone genuinely concerned about the whereabouts of their missing spouse. The sisters also pointed out inconsistencies in Tyler's narrative during the conversation, although they did not publicly elaborate on what those discrepancies were, possibly to preserve sensitive information that could compromise the ongoing investigation. Presumably, such inconsistencies were communicated to the relevant authorities to inform additional investigative lines. A particularly revealing detail shared by Nikki's sisters was Tyler's complete absence from any of the organized searches to find his missing wife. Over the course of almost a year, while not only family and friends but also strangers, moved by the situation, actively mobilized to search for Nikki, her own husband never participated in a single search operation, behavior that many considered deeply incongruous with what would be expected of a genuinely concerned spouse. This systematic absence, when analyzed alongside other elements of the case, The conveniently timed disappearance before the domestic violence trial, inconsistencies in his statements, the fire incident, and the presence of a new woman in his home forms a pattern that many observers find too suggestive to dismiss as mere coincidence. As several commentators of the case have pointed out, the expression, "where there's smoke, there's fire," seems to apply with disturbing literalness to the situation. Speculations also arose regarding the potential relocation of Nikki's remains, particularly after the search conducted at her residence. While no official statements from the authorities have corroborated this specific theory, the reclassification of the case from a missing person to a homicide, combined with the intensified searches and federal intervention, strongly suggests that substantial evidence was discovered, potentially altering the course of the investigation. As the community awaits further developments, Nikki's sisters have set up an online portal dedicated to disseminating information about the case. This resource serves as a central hub for updates, allowing anyone interested to follow the progress of the investigation and potentially contribute relevant information. In their most recent statements, Chloe and Kay made an emotional and direct appeal to the public. For almost a year, we've been searching for our sister and hoping for a major breakthrough in the case that will help us find her. We miss her terribly and will never give up, but we need your help. If you've seen something, heard something, or know something, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem, please come forward. Any information could be the key to bringing our sister home. They also mentioned having reached out to the broader community of families of missing persons, including the mother of Gabby Petito, noting that Gabby Petito was found after a tip from social media, and we haven't lost hope. The deliberate use of hashtags and continued outreach on digital platforms demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of the importance of media visibility in cases like this. Authorities are officially requesting anyone with information, no matter how minor, to contact the Shasta County Major Crimes Unit via email at mcueshastacounty.gov or by phone at 530-245-0880. As is often the case in missing persons investigations, a single, seemingly insignificant tip could provide the crucial connection needed to solve the case. As the one-year mark since Nikki's disappearance approaches, the combination of family persistence, community interest, and intensified official investigative efforts appears to be creating momentum for potentially significant breakthroughs in resolving this tragic case. The reclassification to homicide, though somber in confirming the worst fears, paradoxically represents a progressive step in the investigation, potentially paving the way for formal criminal charges against the responsible parties. For Nikki's family and all those following the case closely, the message remains clear. They will not let Nikki be forgotten, and they will not rest until justice is served. As her sisters emphatically declared, "Our mission is clear. We must bring Nikki home." Sinki, there is a pervasive feeling among observers and analysts of the case that we may be nearing a tipping point. The circumstantial evidence, the suspicious behavior, the inconsistencies in statements, and now the involvement of federal authorities and the official reclassification to homicide, all these elements converge to suggest that the investigative circle is gradually tightening. However, as often happens in complex criminal cases, the distance between suspicion and proof, between plausible theories and admissible evidence in court, can be significant. The absence of a body, the potential deterioration of physical evidence over time, and the challenges inherent in building a case solely on circumstantial evidence represent substantial obstacles to obtaining a conviction, even when the signs of guilt seem clear to external observers. For Nikki's family, particularly her sisters, who have tirelessly kept the search for answers alive, the journey has been both devastating and strengthening. As they explained in their public statements, they find motivation not only in their devotion to their missing sister, but also in the responsibility they feel for their nieces and nephews, Nikki's children, who are growing up in the shadow of their mother's disappearance, deserving both answers and justice. As the community remains vigilant and authorities move forward methodically with the investigation, Nikki McCain's immediate legacy transcends her personal tragedy, shining a light on systemic issues regarding how domestic violence cases are handled, how investigative resources are allocated, and how society collectively responds when a woman goes missing under suspicious circumstances. The enduring hope is that this specific case not only finds resolution and individual justice, but also contributes to a broader recognition of the need for reform and improvements in systems designed to protect potential victims before they become tragic statistics. For those following the case, a shared commitment remains to keep Nikki present in the public consciousness, to continue demanding answers, and ultimately, to ensure her story isn't just another unsolved case in the archives of the criminal justice system. As her sisters reiterated with unwavering determination, our family clings to hope, and we won't stop until we find her.